Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Toast. And yeah, I'm pretty excited today. One, the Batman event is on tonight, where Swole Batman, Skinny Batman, and even Sexy Batman are all playing against the Houston Texans. Fly Eagles Fly. But also, I'm very excited about the upcoming God of War Ragnarok. I mean, we're only 6 days away by this point, and there's just so much anticipation built up around this game. And you know, that makes sense. It is following up one of the greatest single-player experiences of really all time. So that's a tough act to follow. And there has been this lingering, let's just kind of call it curiosity. And well, I think we got at least one part of our answer today, as critics have now officially spoken. So we're going to go over that today, as well as some surprising results for the Nintendo Switch. And a bit of a rare occurrence, they did get beat out in a region that they're typically very dominant in. And I've seen the question since come out, is this a sign that Nintendo needs to move on to their next platform? Well, maybe, but we're going to explore that idea in just a little bit. As always, though, if you find yourself enjoying the video, and if you're new to the channel, do make sure to whack those buttons below, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Parasite Eve and the possibility of Square Enix bringing it back. We did talk about this last week, as Square Enix trademarked symbiogenesis, which means the merging of two separate organisms to form a single new organism. Now, the reason that this is important is because that's loosely the foundation for Parasite Eve's story, hence the rampant speculation for its return. I made it a big feature topic last week in one of my videos. There was some excitement and some speculation on whether it could be a completely new installment or maybe yet another remake. I'm all for a remake myself, but I'd have been happy either way. Well, as it actually turns out, none of that's happening at all. Symbiogenesis is actually something entirely different, as Square Enix announced it today. And let's just go ahead and take a look here as to exactly what it is. So this was posted up on the Video Game Chronicle, where it says, Square Enix has announced a new franchise built around NFTs. Yeah, there it is. That's exciting, right? But let's continue on. It says, Symbiogenesis is described by the company as its first digital collectible art project designed from the ground up for Web3 fans. According to Square Enix, Symbiogenesis is set in a self-contained world where a wide cast of characters symbiosis, all of which can be collected as digital art. It promises to offer an interactive story and a dedicated community. Yeah, we'll see if it has a dedicated community or not, but I guess there you go. No Parasite Eve, and I guess instead we get, we get NFTs, I guess. Who's asking for this stuff again? I really don't know what some of these game companies are doing. I mean, I guess they're just kind of looking for a quick buck or something. We'll see if there's a market for it. But really, if Square Enix wants to kind of make easy money, I mean, remakes, I know they take a lot of work and everything, but you already kind of have the foundation there, so, you know, I think you can make a lot of money on a lot of those beloved IP that they have. All I'm trying to say here is that Square Enix, they're sitting on a little bit of a gold mine here. I will say this, though, I am sorry to all of you Parasite Eve fans out there, though. I know we kind of got your hopes up for that one and everything, but hopefully this won't be the last time we talk about this IP on the channel. Maybe next time I'll come bearing good news. Now, we also got an update for Ghostwire Tokyo and its quote-unquote unannounced Xbox version. This is a Bethesda Tango Gameworks game that released exclusively on PlayStation earlier this year on March 25th, but it is a timed exclusive. And considering Xbox now owns Bethesda, it should be expected that they're going to drop this game on Xbox as soon as they possibly can. I mean, look no further than Deathloop as an example, which was pretty much put in the exact same situation as this. Sony locked both of those games down with time deals before Microsoft acquired Bethesda. The thing about all of this, though, is that even though Microsoft owns these games and Ghostwire Tokyo, because there's a time contract in place, they can't actually come out and confirm that it's coming to Xbox until that contract is up. However, there seems to be a little bit of a way around this, because Bethesda today essentially accidentally leaked its confirmation through the wall art in their publishing studio. Now, you might kind of wonder how they managed to do that, but as you can see here on full display, they have a beautiful wall art for Ghostwire Tokyo, and then it lists all platforms, which includes, in order, the Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and then PC. So there you have it. And I mean, I feel like that this was already kind of evident, but here's something a little bit more official, even if it is a leak. And now all you really need is its release date. Considering it is a 1-year time deal, though, you should expect Ghostwire Tokyo to release on Xbox this March, including a day 1 Xbox Game Pass launch. Just gotta love it. Next up, though, let's go and talk about PlayStation and, of course, God of War Ragnarok. We can now finally talk about this game as reviews are rolling out now, and the ongoing question of can it actually meet expectations? Well, that seems to have been answered with a resounding, and I mean an absolutely resounding yes. I am so happy to say that Ragnarok sits at a 94 overall score on Metacritic as of this recording, which is actually the exact same score as its 2018 counterpart. And that, I think, has always kind of been the big question here. Not will God of War Ragnarok be good? I think most of us kind of already knew that it would be, but was it really possible for them to follow up a masterpiece with yet another masterpiece? That's a very difficult thing to do, but at least according to critics here, they managed to do exactly that. Based on different reviews, though, now I'm not going to go too specific here in case you're trying to avoid reviews as you're already sold on the game or something like that, but to kind of put things short here, it sounds like it's just a bigger, more expanded game than the 2018 iteration. It sounds like they just pretty much took that formula and just improved upon it in every conceivable way possible. Now again, that sounds difficult to me, so that is very, very high praise. The story itself is also sounding as good as you'd expect, but the amount of glowing praise that it's getting, this actually takes us to an entirely, but not necessarily completely unpredicted topic. We're now moving over to that Game of the Year discussion, because God of War Ragnarok has pretty much cemented itself into that conversation, and that's what I actually want to talk about today. 2022 has been a weird year. I think we all kind of know this, but most big games got delayed out of 2022 and into 2023. I mean, if anything, the first half of 2023 is absolutely stacked, but this does make the Game of the Year conversation a lot more clear for this year. You have your two big frontrunners being Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Then you have some others like Xenoblade 3, you have Horizon Forbidden West, A Plague Tale Requiem, Tunic. I think that is an often overlooked game in this category. I thought that one was very, very good. And then also Bayonetta 3 has done well for itself. Now, I believe they did 6 nominees for the Game Awards last year, so it'll be very interesting to kind of see what games they go with in 2022. But Elden Ring and Ragnarok are obviously shoo-ins here. So I think by this point, it's kind of coming down to this 2-horse race, which one is going to win, and it will be very, very interesting to see exactly who does leave the winner here. Now, I can't speak for God of War Ragnarok myself, because I haven't played it yet, but I will say this. I'll be hard-pressed to vote for anything other than Elden Ring. I mean, Ragnarok's gonna have to blow me away, because I've talked about it on this channel before, but Elden Ring is probably in my top 10 favorite games of all time. I got hooked on that game when it first released, and I poured like 120 plus hours into it in a very short time frame. I 100%ed it in everything, and I don't typically do things like that for any game, period. And the thing about Elden Ring is that I liked that game so much that when I finished it, I was actually sad about it, and I didn't really know what game to kind of move on from that point, because I still wanted to play it more. Really, just bring on the expansion, please. But that's the crazy part about this year. Yes, there were a lot of delays. We all very much know this. But at the same time, you have quite the bookends here. At the beginning of the year, you got Elden Ring with a 96 overall score on Metacritic. It's gone on to be this massive seller as well. And then now you have God of War Ragnarok with a 94 overall score. So 2 top-tier generational type of games here in a single year. Again, it's going to be very interesting to see which one comes away the winner here. But I want to go ahead and do something fun here. I want you all to hit the comments below and do a few different things here. First, give me your 6 nominees for 2022. If you haven't played 6 games, no big deal. Just tell me your favorite games. That's perfectly fine. List them in order, though, 1 through 6. And then also, give me your prediction on what you think will actually win at Jeff Keighley's Game of the Year Awards. Do you think it's going to be Elden Ring? Do you think it's going to be God of War Ragnarok? Or do you think there's going to be a big surprise here? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, let's have fun with this one. But either way, big congrats to Sony Santa Monica and God of War Ragnarok. This is a stellar achievement, and yeah, I can't wait to play this game myself next week on November 9th. Now, we also got some surprising results for the Nintendo Switch in Japan. Now, typically they dominate that region pretty handily, but a lot of fans are starting to take notice to the latest Famitsu charts, which reveals it was outsold by the PlayStation 5 in Japan for the week. Now, there's not a huge difference here, as the PlayStation 5 sold 38,866 units, while the Switch sold 38,634 units. So this is a very narrow victory for PlayStation, but at the end of the day, it's still a victory in a region that Nintendo has been more than just a little dominant in for a very, very long time. Now, I have seen some conspiracy theories online that maybe Nintendo is holding back Switch units for the launch of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and okay, we could see a huge resurgence in a few weeks with the launch of Scarlet and Violet. I could see something like that. But for the time being, let's just kind of play into the internet galore here. So because of all of this, and you know how the internet is always a calm place and everything, well, there has since been some discussion on whether or not this is a sign that Nintendo needs to move on to their next console. Have they found themselves in a situation where they've pretty much sold the Switch to anybody and everybody that wanted one already? Are they close to reaching that saturation point, more or less? Well, in my opinion, I think this is actually kind of a tough question, and what I want to say here is that I think that they kind of are, but I don't think that this is an indictment of that. It's just 1 week to a pretty stellar year overall for Nintendo once again. However, I think that you have to look at past generations to find your answer here. The Switch has currently sold 111 million units, putting it as the 5th best-selling console of all time. Now that is already very impressive, but the 4 that are ahead of it are the PlayStation 4 at 117 million, you have the Game Boy at 118 million, and then way at the top, you have the Nintendo DS at 154 million, and the PlayStation 2 at 155 million units sold. So by the end of this year, because the Switch, let's be clear here, is still selling freakishly well, it will likely be the 3rd best-selling console of all time by the end of this year. Now, with that said though, we've only seen 2 consoles ever eclipse that 120 million unit sold mark. The Switch will be the 3rd. But because of that, there likely will be some slowdown in how fast the Switch sells over the next year or so. We are kind of getting to that point where it's reaching that maximum that we've seen in the game industry. I mean, who knows? It might surpass it, but we still gotta have to wait and see about all of that. Now, just to be clear here, I still very much do expect the Switch to be a huge seller. But to answer the question, do I think it's time for Nintendo to look onward? I do. Nintendo has a lot of momentum with the Switch, and I expect it to continue to sell well, as I just said a moment ago, but they have to be smart as well. They don't want that momentum to slow to an absolute crawl before bringing out their next device. We saw that happen with the Wii to the Wii U, and we don't want to see a similar situation with the Switch to whatever their next console will be. What I actually hope they do, though, is just announce a Nintendo Switch 2. Really, just keep it simple here. I know I'm probably asking a lot from Nintendo here. This is the same company that named a console a 3DS, and then you have the 3DS XL, and then the new 3DS XL. Okay, whatever. But because their naming's all over the place, it's hard to tell what they're going to do with all that. But I firmly do believe that they need to stick with the hybrid design, just improve the specs, and keep it backwards compatible. If they do all that, I think it's a runaway hit. They've really kind of carved their own niche in the market with this hybrid design, and it fits Nintendo perfectly. They've always had their handheld consoles, and then they had their home consoles, but now they have the best of both worlds, and it has brought all of their studios together to just work on one device. It has paid off in huge dividends for them. For that matter, if they manage to get backwards compatibility running on it, Switch games can continue to sell in droves, as we've seen all generation long. That also means Mario Kart 8 for the 3rd generation in a row. But I do think that we're getting to that point where we start to hear about their next console. The Switch is starting to show its age, and there's some interesting technologies out there that Nintendo could really take advantage of, such as NVIDIA DLSS 2.0. We also do know that Nintendo has been looking into AI upscaling technology, so there's some possibilities out there if they do want to take them with a brand new console. So maybe over the next year or so, we start to hear about a Super Switch or a Nintendo Switch 2. Let me know what you all think, though. Do you think they will announce something next year, or do you think we're looking at more of 2024? Let me know in the comments below. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all now that the price for the PlayStation VR 2 is set for $550. Are you planning people in getting it. And as you can see here, only 5% of you said yes, while 83% of you said no, and then 8% of you said you are still undecided. So the vast majority of you all are not looking to get PSVR 2, which I think is to be expected here. Virtual reality at the end of the day is still a niche market. Now, I have a few VR headsets myself, including PlayStation VR, I have the Oculus Rift S, and then also the Meta Quest 2. So I do have some experience with VR myself, and I'm actually a supporter of it. I really like VR as it's an amazing experience. You really do have to experience it yourself, but it's one of those things that's hard to sell. They're clunky. You need a lot of room to play them. They have that stigma of not getting a lot of bigger games. It's difficult to advertise a game that you need to experience yourself, as I just mentioned. And then there's also the price. So there's a lot of hurdles for VR to get across, and price might be the #1 factor for a lot of people out there. So PSVR 2 being more expensive than the PlayStation 5 itself, yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw that, I knew exactly how people were going to react. Now, as I said yesterday, though, if you look at the specs, it does make sense, but consumers, they don't really care about that. You're trying to sell an expensive niche product to the mass public. That's what it pretty much boils down to. But let's just go and take a look at one of your all's comments here. So Solly said, imagine bringing it out in a year that's going to be so packed for games, no one in their right mind will buy one when you have to get a PlayStation 5 as well and then buy a game. And I didn't really think about it that way, but 2023 is a very busy year. I mean, we've talked a lot about it on this channel, so that's actually added competition in terms of consumers' money. A lot of people will probably just opt in playing regular games because, I mean, there's plenty to go around next year. I guess the way I look at it, though, is that PlayStation VR 2, I'm sure several VR fans will jump in, but that's another thing that Sony will need to do. They need to differentiate PlayStation VR 2 from its competitors like Meta Quest or just any different number of PC VR headsets out there. I think that they'll need several more big-time exclusives to get this thing really rolling. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.